Hey everyone, I'm Cecil.
And I'm Mercer.
And get ready to have your minds blown. We are here to do another episode of Cecil Mercer's Mind Blowers where we are focusing on the Rick and Morty comic books, you guys.
What?
This is volume 2, which encompasses episodes or issues 6 through 10. So it is 5 more issues of the Rick and Morty comic we are here to discuss. So we are going to be going through them as we did last episode, where we're just going to go an issue at a time, kind of give you the overall story, because this is not necessarily a one story arc comic book like some comic books out there. This one is much more of a anthological, each issue is its own kind of thing. However, I will say that this story arc does present more of one of those overall arcs than we had gotten before, and maybe more than we get again, because 3 of these 5 issues focus around this particular big arc, which is not the evil Morty, but a evil Morty.
Oh.
So yes, we're going to be getting into all of that. So the first issue we're going to start with is issue number 6, of course. So this is what the cover that I have looks like. And just to give credit, because the credits change every time, this one is written by Zach Gorman and illustrated by Andrew McLean, colored by Nick Filardi, and lettered by Crank. Now, this one is a pretty breezy one. Not much to go into, because this, as you can see by the cover, they're just sitting there watching TV. And so this is just one episode of Ball Fondlers.
Yes, it is. It's a Ball Fondlers episode. Everybody loves interdimensional TV and what...
Interdimensional cable, how dare you.
I'm sorry. I'm more of a TV guy. So, yeah. What better to represent that in comic book form than the Ball Fondlers?
So yeah, we get an entire episode of Ball Fondlers, which are introduced, I think, in that first... Was it the first interdimensional cable episode, or was
I think
it the
they make a
second one?
brief one, but I don't know. I think they were spotlighted in the first one. Okay. I want to say they are.
I think so too. Well, I mean, this comic is kind of old at this point. This is issue number 6, and they're up to 50 at this point. So this is 2015.
What?
So it probably is after the first one.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is now what Ball Fondlers is. If you guys didn't know, it does sound obviously very funny, but it's basically an A-Team send-up.
Yes.
But with all kinds of crazy differences. For instance, there is a lizard with a gun. There is a sort of Amazonian warrior. There is an Adventure Time-esque sort of character here.
I believe their names are Flagora, Benjamin Loggins, Attila Starver.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a bunch of weird names, but they're also weird people.
Well, Attila, because he's giant.
I'm sorry, Attila.
Attila is giant. And so, yeah, it's just them having an adventure in this foreign land where they're taking out the bad guys and trying to rescue someone.
Yes.
And they end up against a sort of Cobra Commander-esque person who is...
Normal hands, regular arms.
Yeah, normal hands, regular arms.
What a bad guy name. That's amazing.
So, it's pretty funny that they're sending up their own artwork within the same issue. So it's pretty entertaining. It gets a little bit crazy, and there's definitely some action towards the end of the issue. So they're trying to get out of this camp with this zombie-like character, but one of the characters gets kind of left behind and gets abused, but makes it out, and there's a final confrontation, and it's entertaining. It's well and good enough, but at the very end you see that it is just Rick and Morty watching interdimensional cable, so they just watched an episode of Ball Fondlers.
The only Mlorp with double glorp. It's a commercial at the very end. Read it.
Now, this one is the first issue to not have a backup story as well. Mm-hmm. The rest of them have a backup, at least in this volume, as well as the first volume. So
it's kind of like they just took the night off. They didn't really do anything. There's nothing to report. It was just what was on TV. That's the highlight.
So now in issue number 7, it starts off with an evil masked person hatching a diabolical plan and killing his henchmen / scientists. What's cool is this one starts off like any other Rick and Morty episode. Mm-hmm. And here's the interesting thing, because this came out in 2015 after, I believe, just the first season, a lot of the stories in here, when I read this, because I read them as they were coming out, I didn't really get them that well. Like, I was like, okay, these are just kind of okay. But now, having watched 3 seasons of the show and contextualized how the humor works, I'm enjoying them way more this time around, for sure.
Yeah, again, I got to do it the opposite way, where I watched the show and then got to go back in the comics, and it's kind of like they got to play around in the comic books and see not necessarily what worked, but just what felt right as far as character development and stuff like that. They got a playground, and then you're seeing the refined version on TV, which I think... it's a good plan. I mean, I don't know. It's not like the comic book is worse. It's just where they can test ideas, and you don't get to do that on TV. They don't pay you to do that. So
right. Now, the issue continues on. So here's the beginning. You see this masked person here and disposing with one of his scientists. And then you see Rick and Morty hanging out and playing and just kind of having a good time, which is not something you see very often. But there's a reason for that, because in the very next page, a giant green monster comes through and literally kills Rick.
Kills him.
And Morty is sent through a portal in order to warn what turns out to be our Rick and Morty, or at least the Rick and Morty of C-132, which is, I think, what they designate the comic book universe.
Yeah. Don't quote me on that.
Well, because I think they actually referred to it in this volume. I mentioned it at one point in my notes. So this Morty pops through and kind of tells our Rick and Morty what happens, and Rick hears him and is like, "Morty, can I talk to you outside?" As soon as he does, he's like, "We gotta go, Morty. We gotta get out of here," because he knows what's coming. Basically, the other Rick said, "It's begun. Tell as many Ricks as you can," And so that Morty comes through to our world, and it sends Rick off on his own adventure. Rick and Morty off on a different adventure, while the Rick that comes over from the other universe doesn't fare too well, unfortunately.
Do we know where they're going?
He points out that they're going to the one universe that doesn't have a Rick.
The No Rick Dimension.
So, yeah.
What a name.
It's he's like, we've never gone there before, and he goes, and it turns out that it's a steampunk futuristic world that Rick absolutely hates because he doesn't like steampunk.
Yep, it's tons of Blade Runner jokes.
Blade Runner jokes, steampunk.
80s. It's got a great vibe to it. I like it because it translates to comics very fun. It's a lot of fun to read, and the artwork and colors and all that stuff. It's good. It's good.
Now, at one point in the issue, they're about to run afoul of some bad character here, but they are rescued by some kind of badass ninja person, and it turns out to be the Summer of that universe. And so Summer takes them back to the Resistance, and it turns out that meanwhile the big evil is actually an evil Morty, who's got this weird head deformity that makes it look like he's got hair, but he doesn't. And then the backup stories return here, and it's a fun little story starring Morty and the girl that he oh so loves. What's her name, Andrew?
Jessica.
Jessica, thank you. Yeah, I could never think of it.
You don't remember
No.
Jessica?
No. So they're getting crazy. They're about to get nuts. And then all of a sudden, Morty is attacked by none other than Scary Terry. So that's a fun one. Except it turns out that it's not actually Morty's nightmare. It's Jessica's nightmare. So... we're once again back to the one-off jokes, but they're really fun, so I enjoyed this issue.
You get to see a different perspective on the relationship. Normally it's Morty going crazy for Jessica. Now you get to see Jessica's point of view, and she does not like Morty. It's pretty obvious here.
Now this issue, issue number 8, is the weird offshoot. This is one that does not involve the evil Morty storyline. This is the cover. Did I actually show you a close-up of the cover of this one? I don't think I did. So that's the cover of that one, where they find Summer.
Badass Summer.
Here is the cover of issue number 8. It's some kind of weird wintry Christmas land kind of thing. But now this one, to give proper credit, is written and illustrated by Zach Gorman and colored by Ryan Hill.
It's a different art style.
Different art style, for sure. As you can see right here, I'll point out. So you can see this one is much more of a, a sort of scratchy, shaded kind of Rick and Morty style.
This is a newspaper comic feel. Is the way that I don't know, it's how I felt reading it. It was very newspaper comic-ish.
So they're in this this dimension, and Morty ends up wanting to be kind of left alone, and Rick is like, fine, keep to yourself. And then Morty bumps into this relatively attractive woman who is kind enough to invite him back to hang out with the family for this special holiday on this planet.
What's the holiday called?
Go ahead. Do you have it written down?
I believe it's Blumbus.
No, it's not Blumbus. It is... oh yeah, very special Blumbus. You're right. No, but the actual thing, the ritual, the actual ritual is called something else. Hang on. I know it is. I have it in here. Oh, Blumberflag.
Blumberflarg.
Yeah.
What a name. What a name.
So there is a special sort of ritual called Blumberflarg, which Rick finds out from this drunk at a bar that he finds in this holiday season. And it turns out that Blumberflarg is a special ritual where young women, take young men back to their house
and
mate with them, and then eat them, praying mantis style.
Oh. All right.
So she takes Morty back to her house, ironically at the same time, and it turns out that they are planning to do a Blumberflarg, and Morty agrees to it because he just thinks it's, like Christmas dinner and stuff like that. Turns out it's not, so Morty has to escape, and that's the crux of the issue. I do like how it ended up, because there is a creepy Santa character introduced early on that comes back into play later.
A creepy Santa character. All right.
But yeah, so what did you think of this issue, Andrew? Did you like this one?
It was good. The art style wasn't too jarring. It still felt Rick and Morty-ish. I'm a fan of, kind of different interpretations of stuff. So I don't think it was too crazy, but I don't know, like, just the way that they create their own version. Everybody knows what Christmas is, and everybody immediately goes, oh, Christmas, and oh, it's not so bad, and oh, she's probably inviting them over for dinner. Like, it's just the dark side of that. I feel like it's very it's just very Rick and Morty. You take a nice holiday where everybody gets together and you turn it into a sacrificial, love tragedy situation. So I thought it was fun. But it's a one-off. They didn't do anything with the evil guy, did they?
Not really. No.
So, again, at this point in time,
They ran from him.
Yeah.
Because it turns out he was looking between the veil and he knew exactly what what Morty's room looks like.
Yeah.
So Rick's like, oh my god, Morty, he's basically a god, we gotta go!
Yeah.
And so they take off and run away from him.
Again, at this point in time with the comic, you don't know what to expect. Are they going to continue the story? Is it going to be a one-off? Like, reading them all in a line, as far as, not waiting like you did, or you kind of had to wait for each one to come out. Reading them all in a line, it's kind of like you jump around with stories and it's not like you don't remember, but it would be nice to see maybe they release all the story issues together and then separate them. I don't know.
No, I think they just released them in chronological order.
They do whatever they want,
yeah.
and I eat it all up. I just eat it up.
Now the backstory on this one starts out kind of funny. It's a black and white It's a Wonderful Life parody, except it's on the day of Blumberflarg, so you can see they've got a young man here strapped down to a table in order to eat at this point. But it turns out that that's just a show that Rick and Morty are watching on interdimensional cable, and that night Rick goes to sleep and has a dream about a Jacob Marley type ghost who says he's going to be visited by 3 spirits, and so we get a very abbreviated Rick and Morty Christmas Carol where Rick sees his past, sees his present, and sees his future, and then goes back and says, okay, I just want to go back, please let me go back. And he's like, yeah, I just want to go back and finish this TV show. And that's basically the long and short of that one.
Doesn't care. Rick not caring. I love it.
So that's going to bring us to issue number 9. And that cover looks like this. Picking up again, obviously, with the storyline where Rick and Morty are being helped by Summer versus Evil Morty. Evil Comics Morty, not Evil Morty from the TV show.
Special Forces Rick and Morty. Here we go.
Once again, Summer takes them back to her Resistance home base. And we're back to the art style. Hang on, let me do the proper credit. This is written by Zach Gorman, penciled by C.J. Cannon, and inked by Kat Ferris, colored by Ryan Hill. So we're back to that is the standard crew for this one, and that was the crew for most of the first arc. But now we're back to this one, and so you see that Evil Morty has a henchbeth from his timeline, and so basically while Evil Morty is devising his plan, Rick and Morty from our world are working with Summer to try and figure out how to bring everything down. Turns out there is a Jerry in this world.
Oh, and what is he? He's the
complete screw up.
Yeah.
But it also turns out he's a bit of a double agent.
Hey, look at that. Jerry serving a purpose.
But yeah, so it's a bit of espionage, a bit of spy stuff going back and forth here. Yes. There's not a terrible amount of action that actually happens in this issue because it does continue into next issue. But it's a lot of world building, and we see that Jerry is a bit of a traitor, and he ends up, doing something stupid and accidentally shooting Morty at one point. But yeah, so that's where we leave off. Jerry makes a very stupid decision. There's a big explosion, and that's that. And that leads into the backup issue. So Jerry, what did you think of this one being a little bit more dialogue heavy as opposed to the other issues, which have a lot more gags and stuff?
It was kind of cool because overall, like, you saw some pretty big stuff. You saw, Jerry kill Morty, Jerry blow everything up. The evil Morty has kind of, I don't want to say revealed his plan, but he's kind of showed he's got, unlimited, resources and stuff. It feels very plot heavy, like an episode would, It feels like they're stuffing in, and yeah, you got to read it, but I don't think it's bad, Just because you got to read a bunch, I wasn't taken back by it. I didn't really care because we got more story, and that's, that was kind of the whole reason that you do this is, yeah, it's fun to do the one-offs and work on, funny, gaggy stuff. But this is actually, I would like to maybe see them do an expanded Evil Morty thing or an expanded...
Well, they are. Very long.
Well,
form.
Yes, I know. I don't want to spoil anything if you guys are watching along, with. But, it would be cool to see some of the stuff that they're now experimenting with put into what people would call canon. Mm-hmm. Canon... Again, I liked, at this point in time reading, I liked where they were going. I liked this continuation arc more than the last one. Mm-hmm. So I was kind of hooked at this point in time as far as reading and being all about the comics.
So the backup story on this one, and I agree with you, I think it was worth the world building. And it made me more invested, and I did want to read the next one to resolve everything.
Yes.
So the backup story in this is Morty can't sleep one night, and so he ends up going into the living room and asking Rick if he can help because he just can't get to sleep, and so because he's scared of the fact that they almost died on a recent adventure. And so Rick brings him into the garage and hands him this box and says, "Here, look in this box. It's the death box where basically you can look in and experience what death is like for a brief moment if you're really that curious to know what death is like." Mm-hmm. And Morty, looks at the box and basically decides not to, and they basically go back to a peaceful sleep back on the couch. So that one was less of a joke and more of an actual little mini poignant Rick and Morty moment.
Yeah.
So I kind of like that, actually.
That's a Rick and Morty life lesson in a nutshell.
Mm-hmm. Message.
Don't ask something that you might not want the answer to.
Which brings us to the final issue in this volume 2 of Rick and Morty Comics.
Show the people!
And that is going to be the final confrontation of Rick and Morty versus Morty.
Rick and Morty versus Morty!
So, yeah. This one starts off where the last one... picks up where the last one left off in the ruins of the explosion that Jerry just triggered.
Because he's an idiot.
Turns out that Morty's right there and knocks out Rick and takes him with him. So Now Rick is going to be basically tortured for a majority of the issue, while Summer has rescued Morty and has patched up his wounds.
Yes.
And they are trying to devise a plan of attack from this point.
She tells them that the bad guys won. Mm-hmm. That's the way that it goes.
That there's nothing that they can do.
Nothing.
Now the world is in such a point where Morty has these drones just roaming around the city and taking care of errant people, including Principal Vagina and the Morty's teacher there. So yeah, that doesn't go well for society. But nonetheless, Morty and Summer essentially don't give up because Rick is captured, so It's just up to them.
They have to rescue him because he's being tortured.
And so they break into the complex and do an attack and try and get back Rick's portal gun here because it has a functioning battery. And so we also, in the next page, get a bit of an origin story for this universe's Summer and Morty, and tells us why Morty ended up going a little bit by way of Nutsoid.
Nutsoid!
And then there's a big confrontation where Morty in his mech shows up to try and take out our Morty and this world's Summer. And it actually it ends a little bit crazily. I don't really want to spoil it for you, so I won't.
Yeah, don't spoil it for him. Basically, the Bert and Morty was looking for the secret to interdimensional travel. I believe was his whole arc. That's why
they took Rick's portal gun, but they couldn't figure it out.
So yeah, all that stuff basically comes to a big head and gets wrapped up and. You need to go check it out.
Yes, and we won't say what happens, but it is an entertaining ending. And boy, oh boy, Jerry's will be Jerry's, huh?
Yeah, Jerry's will be Jerry's.
So that brings us actually a good segue to the backup story, which is all about Jerry. This is called Jerry and Rick's Day of Fun.
What?
So this backup is actually really entertaining. If you look here, Jerry basically is picking up his satchel and leaving the house, telling the family that he's going to a job interview. But he is not. He's actually going to meet up with someone that we met in the show. He's going to meet up with Slow Rick.
Dumb Rick
from what episode was that? It was the first Council of Ricks episode, right?
Yeah, it was the one where the first Evil Morty episode with the eye patch.
So there you go. They get to reunite because they became friends in that episode of the show. And now it turns out that they reunite once a month in order to get together and have some fun. And Jerry eventually goes back and tells Beth that he just didn't get the job. But nonetheless, he gets to have one day of fun with Slow Rick. So that is I actually really, really liked that backup episode.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was really entertaining.
The only person that Jerry's actually connected with on the show, and they bring him back in the comics.
And that story feels really in canon, whereas some of these stories in the comic book don't necessarily feel in canon. So, I don't know. I thought Rick and Morty Volume 2 had its positives and its drawbacks. Like, I think the artwork wasn't as strong because they didn't stick with the main crew for the entire thing. But I do think that it was strong because it was the first multi-arc and it was a different Evil Morty, and we got to see, I love multiverse stories, and so this is a prime example of a good Rick and Morty multiverse story. So I dig this volume. I think Rick and Morty Volume 2 of the comics is definitely worth the time and energy of people that like Rick and Morty. What about you?
I liked it. Again, the more complex story, definite plus. I liked how you got to see a little more character development as far as these different dimensions. It's a little different than the way that the show was structured. So as similar as it is, like you said, with the similar artwork and the crew and all that kind of stuff, I like the differences that they are willing to keep in the comics as opposed to the show. And I like some of that stuff going through into the next arc, which I kind of figured they might go Hollywood and just do 5 story ones that are strict. But again, I was hooked at this point in time. Midway through this arc, I was like, here we go. Give me more, give me more, give me more.
It was like feeding him medicine, getting him to take the comic books in the first place. And
then I got better and was like, oh, this isn't so bad.
I like that he's enjoying it. I do. So, and I'm honestly, because I stopped reading them around about issue 20 or 25. because I knew we were going to start this and I didn't want to get too far ahead. And they're up to issue 50 with an additional 21 other issues outside of the main series. So I still have about 30 Rick and Morty issues that I haven't even read yet. So I'm excited to get through these now.
Yes.
Now that we're burning through them.
It's going to be fun. I hope you guys are willing to go out, get the stuff, read it with us, and
read along.
Tell us what you guys think. Tell us if you guys are thinking the same stuff. If we're way off base, I'm okay with that. I just want to know more stuff from you guys, and give us your feedback.
That's a good way to do this, honestly, Andrew. Maybe we'll try and make this the Rick and Morty Book of the Month thing. Oh. Right? So now you guys know we just reviewed Volume 2. Go and pick up Volume 3 for the next time. Next month, we will be reviewing Volume 3 in our Cecil Mercer's Mind Blowers right here on Saturday morning on the Horror Show channel. If you guys enjoyed this episode, click that like button down there and subscribe if you want to make sure you catch all of these Cecil and Mercer's Mind Blowers episodes. Until next time, I've been Cecil.
And I've been Mercer.
And your mind's been blown!